All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Chomping at the Bit for Black Adam. I actually went to go see it Thursday night, but like I said, I was telling everyone that we'd wait till Thursday, not Thursday, Sunday to bring this review around. So there we go with that. Now, getting into it, we already know the movie stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as the titular title character, Black Adam himself. And we already know that this is another film in the connection of the DC extended universe. But just to let everybody know, there is a lot of heavy spoilers ahead for this review. So if you haven't seen it yet, go do so and then come back. I'll give you a little bit of time to wait. Okay, thanks for waiting. Let's move on, shall we? Hello, Kathy. Yeah, so we already know that Black Adam is the latest of the DCEU films. And of course, since we already know the character of Black Adam, he's technically supposed to be connected to Shazam in a way. He's technically his antagonist, but I think this was actually due to what The Rock wanted. He actually wanted him to be left out of the original Shazam movie. The only connection we have to Shazam, the film, and of course the larger Shazam mythos is of course the Rock of Eternity, and of course the Council of Wizards, and of course we even get the one who gave Billy Bats and his siblings their powers in the movie as well. But I think he's only there for like a cameo. And of course, the entire film takes place in the fictional Middle Eastern country of Kandak. And of course, one other thing I need to mention here is that my only exposure to the character of Black Adam was through the Injustice video game. And of course, he actually is an antagonist. So, Kahndaq itself, even in ancient times, it's been old. It's said in the universe that it's older than Egypt. It's older than ancient Egypt, Atlantis, and even Babylonia. So, all those other civilizations that came before, Kahndaq was the true first civilization on Earth. And of course, in modern day, Kahndaq is under enemy occupation from a group of international mercenaries called the Intergang. And of course, they're mining Eternium, which is also what the ancient Kandakis were mining to craft the artifact MacGuffin of this film known as the Crown of Sabak, which is said to contain the powers of demons. And it was ordered to be forged by an ancient tyrant king who took over Kahndaq. But again, once there, we already know that there's someone who rises up and wants to be a champion for the people of Kahndaq. And of course, this was thought to be Black Adam himself, or Teth Adam. But as you find out later, the story we hear that basically all the people of Kahndaq literally tried to spell as his legend and his champion was not entirely set in stone here. It's not as like clear cut as because again, legends are often like to the people who live closer to it, it's hailed as something like miraculous or powerful or something that can give anybody strength. But again, history is often darker than you think it is. So there you go with that. And when we move into modern day. Yeah, Intergang is always causing, and we meet up with like three people. One of the people is literally technically supposed to be Eris from the comics, and of course she's an archaeologist trying to find the Crown of Sabak. And of course she has a couple of cohorts with her brother, and two mercenaries that seem to be on their side. But the other one, yeah, it turns out that other mercenary who worked on, I think his name was Ishmael, I think. Yeah. turns out Ishmael is actually the long descendant of that tyrant king. And of course, he wants to use a crown of Sabak to regain the throne of Kondak and ultimately use the power of the demon to become the great champion, aka Sabak himself. But the thing is, she uses like an Eternium necklace to release Teth Adam from the tomb. And thus, the minute he comes out, and of course, they get cornered by mercenaries. Yeah, he literally just starts wrecking every single one of them. And even literally just basically uses his lightning powers and just basically charcoals the guy to dust. It's crazy. And there are multiple times where he literally just does everything in slow motion. It's just so cinematically shot. And when he wakes up in like their home, and of course she's got a son. She's got a son named Aman, and she also has a brother who's again the boy's uncle. And again, the uncle kind of serves as a little bit of comic relief in the story, but also we have a few other characters. Once he's unleashed, he starts wreaking havoc, and we then cut to the estate of Carter Hall, aka Hawkman, who is played by Adiz Hodge, who you probably know from Straight Outta Compton, and he also brings in other cohorts with him, a part of the Justice Society of America. You have Adam Smasher, who is basically the nephew of the original Adam Smasher, and it looks like the person who's there. I almost at first I kind of thought it was Henry Winkler, who was the original Adam Smasher, but I don't really know. I never really looked into finding out who was the actor who played the older Adam Smasher, but this newer one is obviously his nephew. And of course, we also have Cyclone, who is also the tech person of the group, and of course, she has wind powers and whatnot. But the other thing is that in the original comics, turns out, yeah, she of course is a ginger hair chick, and of course the actress who plays her, Quintessa Swindle, I think that's how her name is pronounced. Yeah, she obviously, I know that's like one of the probably more woke elements of the movie, where they just cast an actress of color for that diversity quota, whatever not. And of course, yeah, giving her or dyeing her curly hair red does not make up for that. Why couldn't you just got like the actual like an actual redhead actress? Heck, if I can look her up real quickly, let me show you. Now, let me see if I can find it. Okay, let me share my screen here. Yeah, right here. Even one of these iterations here of this character, she looks an awful lot. She looks an awful lot like an actress that I've seen before. She resembles a lot of of an actress named Hannah Rose May. She literally is a dead ringer. So I mean, wonder why they just couldn't get that actress to play this character. But of course, Hollywood seems dead set on wanting to erase like actual real gingers out there, because hell if I know. Hell if I know. But of course, you finally also have Adams, and of course, you already have the one who obviously is my favorite character out of all the Justice Society, and that is Pierce Brosnan as Kane, otherwise known as Dr. Fate. And of course, we already know Dr. Fate is literally the DC equivalent to Doctor Strange. Of course, he has magical powers and whatnot. Heck, he even does like a multiple illusion of himself sort of thing that he does in the final battle in a way, and also in their first engagement with Black Adam. But again, need to let you know, Black Adam is a more standard like sort of superhero film, but he's more of an anti-villain in a way, because he's just like, yeah, this is my what has happened in my home. Yeah, 5,000 years have passed since your time. So yeah, Kondak looks a lot different. Yeah, over that course of time, Kondak evolved into a more modern city. And of course, there's a big statue of what they all perceive to be him, but it really isn't. And of course, the Justice Society is contracted by Amanda Waller to apprehend Black Adam, get him to say Shazam to depower him and put him in a prison for metahumans underneath the Arctic. I think that's probably where it is. I mean, again, it's underwater under like a big ice glacier or whatever. So there you go with that. And it's obviously something that they're not going to do. And of course, they obviously come in to Conduct and they say to everyone, yeah, given the fact that they've been invaded by thousands of foreign invaders over time, they're not very welcoming to outsiders. Even though, like, all the people cheer Black Adam in the streets and they say, "All hail the champion," he wants really nothing of it. He wants to be released, but again, he just says, "They're all those people. Some of the people that attack him were just getting in the way. That's all they were to him." And sure, he does save Eris and does try to protect him. But of course, Hawkman is the one who's obviously trying to do the whole superhero stuff and play everything by the book. But you already know Black Adam just straight killing every guy left and right, even when they try to interrogate them to find out. Because I think, of course, Amon obviously tries to, or his mom tells him to try to hide the crown. He gets captured by Ishmael. And he obviously takes him on one of those damn Eternium bikes. Yeah, they have literal hover bikes that these mercenaries use. It's crazy. And of course, they fly all the way. They fly halfway across the world trying to find him, and he's just pulling each one apart and killing every single guy on those hover bikes, while Hawkman is just trying to do everything by the book and save them. Even when they grab two of them, they actually say, hey, look, man, we should just interrogate them first. He goes like, all right, I'll interrogate him. He just pulls them up into the sky and says, hey, man, you better not drop them. No, I'll ask them. I will simply ask them questions. Where is the boy? Whoever answers first gets to live. And of course, one of them doesn't know. He drops them. Hawkman goes after him, tries to grab him. It's just kind of crazy. I mean, it's even more funny, if we have like a future superhero story where the characters are actually trying to limit whatever collateral damage and casualties at any cost. But heck, that may be a subject of something yours truly may eventually be writing. So again, but like I said, writing for me is a very slow process. But yeah, again, the characters, all these characters, some of them are good, the others are all right, but they don't really add too much to the story. That's all I can really say. Smasher's just kind of there, and again, with his powers, having those powers basically being the Ant-Man being able to grow large, we don't see him shrink. All he can do is just grow, but having powers where you can just grow, you basically are probably more of a liability with those powers more than being an asset to any superhero team, because you're automatically going to be causing just as much, if not more, damage than anything else. I mean, I'm pretty sure he has to be super careful. I mean, this is literally his first job as a superhero, and he's kind of fumbling a bit, so you kind of get it. And all he really serves is just a foil to the other characters and a little bit of banter. And of course, Pierce Brosnan, who obviously can see the future with that helmet, and everything, of course, is all left up to fate. And of course, I think he sees a vision where Hawkman actually dies near the end of the movie, but it turns out he does everything to try to prevent it. And he actually ends up being, and it turns out Fate himself actually ends up being the heroic sacrifice in the end, trying to stop Sabak from getting on the throne and reclaiming Kahndaq and ultimately unleashing hell on Earth. So again, the gods had their champion, and of course, the denizens of hell have their champion, Sabak. Because of course the crown, and because actually scribed on the crown itself, that's actually made from Eternium, which again they mined, which are just basically just shards of the Rock of Eternity. They forge it into the crown, and it says there, inscribed in it, the pathway to death means life, or something like that, kind of got a little bit of it. I know I tried to write a script about this, but again, I'm still just doing this kind of off the cuff in a way. But I know I didn't really have a lot of time to really finish it because, the film actually started like 30 minutes later than I was expecting it to start. So there he goes with that. But of course, Black Adam he's just trying to do what he does with his powers and just kills anything in his path, while the other heroes are basically trying to limit whatever collateral damage and casualties he's causing. But eventually, we find out the full story. Amon gets captured and taken to one of the mines in Kondak. They bring it, and that's where we get the revelation of, the guy being the descendant of the Tyrant King. And it actually was all part of a ploy for Black Adam to actually kill him so he could actually claim the power and become their champion and become Sabak. So he's reborn into the earth as the demon. And of course, they also find out that Teth Adam was not actually the champion. It was his son at the very beginning of the movie that rose up to try to free the people of Kondak. And of course, the Council of Wizards are the ones that took him away, similar to how the villain was originally deemed worthy, and he spent his whole life trying to find them, but ultimately he wants the power of powerful evil spirits to basically give him to give him all the power to seize the wizard staff. But it's the same thing. Like I said, there's not much of a connection to the larger mythos to Shazam, other than mentioning the Rock of Eternity and the Rock of Finality, and that's about it. And of course, the Council of Wizards. So you have that, and of course, once we find out that it was his son, he was granted the power and was actually the true champion of Kondak. But of course, the king ordered his family to be killed, but he came and basically gave his father the power to save his life. But ultimately, the child was basically killed by arrows, and of course, the mother was obviously slain too. And because of that, the power cursed him and made him basically a vessel of rage. And of course, the wizards basically entombed him in the mountain, and it was basically meant to be his prison until Eris pretty much like unleashed him back into our world. So that's a good bit of revelation there. And once that's done, they take him to he basically just gives up his power, says the word Shazam, and he's brought back to his mortal self again. And they take him to the prison where they hope they'll keep him in prison for a long time. But Dr. Fate, seeing the future, knows that he was actually meant to try to stop this demon, and only he could. And of course, Dr. Fate breaks him out of the prison. He manages to escape, and once he rises slowly to the surface, nearly drowning, he regains his power and becomes now truly becomes a protector of Kondak, which is where he's allowed to stay, where he now is willing to stay. But he's not going to technically rule. He's not going to rule them. And he actually views the people of Kondak. And once Sabak rises and he gets on the throne, he summons like an army of demons. It's not like a massive. Just some of them are just roaming around the streets. And of course, the people of Kondak rise up and try to fight them back too. So there you go. The people of Kondak are strong-willed fighters. And I'd love to see, maybe the international world just sends Kondak aid after this, and just they'll gladly just help them restore things, maybe. But of course, that pretty much ends the movie. Everyone says their goodbyes. Dr. Fate, obviously, before all that, sacrificed himself because, again, Pierce Brosnan really gave a lot of his James Bond wit to this role, and I really loved him for it. But after that, we already know about the post-credit scene, and lo and behold, everybody, Amanda Waller shows up and says, "Oh, I could just call. Yeah, you don't want to stay in my prison. That's fine. But you stay in conduct, or you're gonna you stay in conduct. If you leave, it's your ass essentially." And he says, no person on earth could stop me. I don't need. Well again, there I can call orders from other people from other planets, and guess who she obviously calls in? Who obviously she probably has on a leash, most likely. Superman himself shows up, and lo and behold, he is played by Henry Cavill. So yeah, Cavill is back as Superman. So there you go with that. So yeah, Black Adam is just a standard comic book movie. And again, if we've been seeing more of the stuff from like the MCU recently, yeah, it's like really going downhill. And I know I saw the Batman. It was all right, but it wasn't really good for it was a movie that kind of dragged on a little too long. And we don't really know where it's going to go for because I know they're trying to do multiple DC projects, but this is a small continuation of the DCEU. And of course, we already saw a bit of a trailer for Shazam Fury of the Gods, and I hope maybe Black Adam is going to be in a post-credit scene for that movie next year. So there you go with that. It's a good standard movie. I'd say I give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's a good movie to watch because again, the critical score is bad, but again, if you knowing how critics are nowadays, yeah, don't trust what they say because again, those Hollywood types out there are trying to push the message and the new status quo of everything, trying to make everything all woke and stuff. But Dwayne the Rock Johnson owns this role. He has embodied the fact that he is Black Adam. And I'd love to see him return further in the future. And even then, I'd love to see him fight Superman. The Kryptonian Man of Steel versus the God power of magic. And we already know magic is one of Superman's understated weaknesses that nobody really brings up half the time. But yeah, it's a great movie. It's worth a watch. Maybe two. Definitely maybe two. So with that being said, guys, I'm glad you all tuned in, and I'll see and may God, the force, and the power protect you always. And again, this week, of course, will be the last week for Friday Night Biohazard and, of course, Talking Xenobites, which is the Halloween-themed version of Talking Pinheads. And then we go back to our regularly scheduled programming with a normal random live stream or two, anything if I deem talking about it with Chomping at the Bit. And eventually I'll probably do more videos with why I love it if I can ever really think of something and write a script around it. So look forward to seeing that. And with that being said, I really hope you all tuned in, and may God, the force, and the power protect you always.